Have you done any mapping, Carmaine, or are you just strictly in the photography kind of lane?
Particularly in photography, videography. Yep.
Have you ever been interested in jumping into mapping? And I mean,
I have. I mean, I think it's funny. I listen to quite a bit of mapping and surveying and things like that, and it's you. I think in order for you to really, I think, give certain data that certain companies are looking for. I'm not really sure if you need some background as a surveyor, quite possibly, to pull some of this stuff off. But I think you also have to know where your client needs to be according to your skill set. So I don't think you need to bite off more than you can chew in such a linear like that. And me not coming from that linear, I'm coming from cinematography and videography and photography. So that's more of my thing. And that being said, I do want to get off more into it, and I'm making moves to do that, to learn as much as I can about it, because there's a I think a nice size opportunity there.
So Brendan, there's a lot of people kind of at Carmaine's inflection point where they would only be in cinematography or which is a lot harder to make money than, let's say, you were doing mapping. And then I'd also see people come to the show where they'd be able to take a good photo and a drone, and they say, I'm going to get into public safety drones, not even knowing what that really means, and that it's really just firemen and police officers that are flying them. They're not really providing that as a service in many cases. Do you feel like those lines are becoming clearer, where it's just if you use a drone for photography, that's what you use it for, and if you have construction background, then you're going to have the connections to actually use a drone as a drone service provider in construction? I mean, yeah. Are people jumping from vertical to vertical, or is that kind of myth dying down?
I think Carmaine's right. I think I think a lot of drone pilots have tried different applications across a number of different verticals. I do think that when you start looking at videography, drone photography, aerial cinematography, those are real skills. I mean, it's just not, in order to produce high quality photography and cinematography, you need to know what you're doing. And so, I think what we're going to see is people struggle to go across verticals if you don't have that subject matter expertise. I think that the only ones who can afford to kind of do that are the bigger service providers. So you look at the Aerodynes of the world that have the capital to say, okay, we're going to hire the subject matter expert in construction and energy and in agriculture to go after those customers and build the right flight operations around them. But then again, you're going to see plenty of people who are just focused on one vertical who are, making money because they've become the go-to, company or person in that field, and they've just developed a good reputation. And particularly in cinematography and photography, I think it's actually a pretty close-knit community where, there's probably, 50 companies or pilots in the United States who are kind of the go-to for TV shows and Hollywood and commercials, and it's hard to break in. I'll be honest, if you're not on the list, you're not going to get the call. So I think that's one of those unique applications where if you're in the club, and you're trying to break in, it's going to take some time. And if you're a bigger company, you're kind of hiring those people to get you into that line of business.